Hello everyone, welcome to this channel. I am Michelle. Thank you for joining me here. Before I start, please feel free to subscribe to this channel, switch on the notification button, and listen to this podcast until the end. Let me start with a quick question. How many of you have ever found a major control gap, written a perfect finding, presented the evidence, only to have the process owner get defensive, argue about the wording, or simply refuse to cooperate? We've all been there. Here is the truth the textbooks don't tell you. Technical skills get you hired, but soft skills get you access. And without access, you are just reading old documents in a conference room. Today, we are going to transform how you audit. We will cover 3 pillars: strategic communication, emotional intelligence under pressure, and the art of negotiation. By the end of this session, you will move from being a policeman to a trusted advisor. Let's begin. Pillar 1, listening to understand, not to rebut. In auditing, we are trained to ask questions. Show me the approval. Where is the signature? That is interrogation. I want you to switch to exploration. Consider 2 auditors. Auditor A walks in and says, "Your expense report failed the compliance test. Fix it." The manager shuts down. Auditor B says, "I noticed a variance in the travel expenses. Walk me through your process here. Is there a bottleneck I am not seeing?" What changed? Auditor B invited dialogue. They used open-ended questions. In internal auditing, 70% of resistance disappears when the auditee feels heard. Here is a technique I call the 3-second rule. After the auditee stops talking, count to 3 in your head before you speak. It feels uncomfortable, but in those 3 seconds, one of 2 things happens. They either give you the real reason for the error, or they fill the silence with a solution. Master silence. It is the sharpest tool in your soft skill kit. Remember, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. Let's move to Pillar 2, emotional intelligence, specifically self-regulation. Auditing is stressful. We have tight deadlines, the client is busy. You find a material weakness 2 days before the report is due. Your biology will react. Your heart rate spikes. You want to send a terse email demanding answers. Do not. That is low EQ. High EQ in auditing looks like this. Pausing to distinguish between intent and impact. That manager who missed the control, they likely weren't trying to defraud the company. They were likely overworked. When you approach an issue saying, "I know this wasn't intentional, but here is the risk this creates," you disarm the fight or flight response. You become an ally solving a problem, not a critic assigning blame. Here is a script to use next week. Say this: "I see why you did it that way. It makes operational sense. However, from a risk perspective, here is my concern. How can we fix this together?" Notice the word together. Empathy doesn't mean accepting non-compliance. It means respecting the person while challenging the process. If you leave an audit trail of burned bridges, you are a failed auditor, no matter how many findings you produce. Pillar 3, persuasion without authority. Internal audit has no operational authority. We cannot fire anyone. We cannot stop a process. We only have the power to persuade. So, how do you convince a stubborn process owner to accept a high-risk finding? You stop using audit speak. Most auditors say, "Control 4.2 failed due to lack of segregation of duties. Rating high." That is a fact. It is also meaningless to a busy manager. Instead, frame it for their priorities. Say, "Steve, if this segregation issue stays open, your budget is going to take a 15% hit because we have to add manual reviews. Help me protect your budget by closing this gap." See the shift? You moved from "you failed" to "here is a threat to your goal." Persuasion is translation. You translate risk into their language: time, money, reputation, or safety. When conflict arises, and it will, use the labeling technique. Say, It sounds like you are frustrated with the timing of this audit. When you label their emotion, they almost always say, yes, exactly. And once they say yes to that, they cannot say no to your solution. You have defused the bomb. We have covered a lot just now: active listening, emotional intelligence, and persuasive framing. But knowledge without action is just trivia. Here is my challenge to you. Tomorrow morning, before you send that audit request email, rewrite it. Take out the word audit and put in the word review. Take out the word deficiency and put in the word opportunity. Then look at your calendar. Block 15 minutes this week for a listening coffee with a process owner you clashed with last quarter. No agenda, no work papers, just listen. The future of internal audit is not in spreadsheets or AI. AI can sample data. AI cannot build trust. AI cannot read a room. That is your superpower. Soft skills are not nice to have. They are the difference between an audit that sits on a shelf and an audit that drives change. Go be the auditor that people ask to come back. Thank you for your time. If you found this podcast is useful, please feel free to subscribe to this channel and share this channel as well as this podcast out with your friends and colleagues. Thank you and have a great day ahead.